Good afternoon. It's a little past 4 and we don't have a quorum yet, but we're going to go ahead and start as a subcommittee so we can move this process along and take up some of the informational items, be respectful of everyone's time. So if you are following along, we're going to start with the executive officer's report.
Hi. So I wanted to share with the board a few items tonight. Just wanted to give the board an update on the priority funding apportionment. So the board took action on 90 projects for $191 million, and we have about $75 million that have come in for the funds, so that's great progress. We wanted to share with the board, but those folks that have outstanding apportionments, we need your documentation by June 19th. So we've been reaching out to those folks to make sure they hit the timelines. And the second item is we wanted to announce that the priority funding certification round is coming up, and that is May 9th through June 7th. So if you have an unfunded approval granting you your project, taken action by the board, then you have the ability to submit your certification during that time frame. And those certifications, if we receive by June 7th, those are valid from July 1st to December 31st. And those projects will be eligible for a fall bond sale. We also wanted to announce that we had been active with workshops, and we have 2 career check education workshops. One is in Van Nuys, and that's on May 30th, and that will be at the Van Nuys State Office Building there in Van Nuys. And we also have May 31st, Riverside County Office of Education will be hosting a career tech education workshop. In addition, I know it's not on here, but we've also been featuring workshops with small school districts. We actually had one executed with Department of Education, Division of State Architect, and that was in Auburn last Friday. And we're also hosting 2 more, one in Whittier on May 30th. And actually, in a few weeks, we'll actually have one in Shasta County in Reading. So if you haven't already done so, we encourage districts to come to our workshops. They're actually free of charge. One other note on the career tech education item, we did want to highlight that applications are due to Department of Education on October 19th, and the executive officer statement I have it October 30th. So that timeline has been adjusted. Another note is the regulations are in effect for the seismic mitigation program, meaning that the board took action in January to approve regulations to extend the program for seismic mitigation projects. And additionally, the regulations have been approved to have eligibility updates for new construction, and those regulations are in effect as of April 16th. And with that, the last item is May 23rd. We have our next board meeting.
Thank you. Welcome. I think we got a quorum, so thank you for that. Before we do the roll, is there any public comment on any of the information item that was just presented? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Jones, if you'd like to.
Senator Allen, Senator Nguyen, Senator Pan, Assemblymember Nazarian,
Present.
Assemblymember Chavez,
Present.
Assemblymember O'Donnell, Juan Morales,
Here.
Cesar Diaz,
Here.
Jeffrey McGuire,
Present.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. So the State Allocation Board is officially convening, and we're going to move on to some action items. The first of those is approving the minutes for the March 21st meeting. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review those. Any comments from board members? No? Any comments from the public on the minutes? Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Assemblymember Nazarian,
Aye.
Assemblymember Chavez,
Aye.
Juan Morales,
Aye.
Cesar Diaz,
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire,
Aye.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez,
Aye.
and the motion carries.
Thank you.
Do you want to mention that we'll leave it open?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We'll be leaving this open for other members to add on. Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda next.
Consent agenda is ready for your approval.
Okay, unless there's,
Move approval. Second.
great. Before we take the roll, was there any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none.
Okay, thank you. Assemblymember Nazarian,
Aye.
Assemblymember Chavez,
Aye.
Juan Morales. Cesar Diaz.
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire.
Aye.
Jocelyn Wong Hernandez.
Aye. And
Thank
again,
you.
holding that open.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The next item I have is another information item, the status of the fund releases.
Yeah, so we wanted to draw your attention to tab 5, which is page 70. And actually, we have been dispersing funds as a result of the apportionments that actually occurred in December. So we have $4.9 million that was dispersed in March, and we didn't report that outward facing because I know we had a short agenda in March. And also wanted to highlight on page 72, we've been active with the program, and in summation, we actually, in the consent agenda, there's 27 items that were granted for your approval today, and so that equated to nearly $77.6 million, which is great news for the program. And that also includes 18 projects for $18.7 million, and that is rescissions and recoveries. And on page 73, we also wanted to highlight there was 9 emergency repair program grants that was also approved as part of the consent agenda. And that was for $1.1 million, so. And that's all we have.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item of status of funds. Was that fully covered within the status of fund releases? Okay. All right, well then we're moving on to tab 6, right? We're up for appeals.
So our first appeal on the agenda today is for Burnt Ranch in Trinity County. This is a small one-school district that was before this board in August of 2017 for a project to address mold issues throughout their entire campus that resulted in the closure of the school and the need to bring in interim housing for the students. At the time, the board approved the district for an immediate apportionment for design funding. They did receive that funding. They went ahead and got the necessary approvals from the state architect, the Department of Education, and the project is ready to go to contract right now. The district is a financial hardship district, meaning that they are relying on the state funding at this point to complete the construction project and get the kids back into the classrooms. So the appeal today, they are requesting that the project be approved on an immediate apportionment basis rather than waiting for the next bond sale. So that way they can get the contracts awarded and get started on construction. In addition to the health and safety nature of the project, they also have extreme weather circumstances where they have a very small window to construct before they get heavy rains. There are 2 options for the board. Under option 1, it would approve the project an immediate apportionment basis, allowing the district to access cash very soon. And option 2 approves the project. It is ready for a board approval, even as an unfunded approval, but staff does recommend that the board approve option 1 so that the district can access the cash and get started and get the kids back into the classrooms. And I'm available for any questions, and the district is also here to address any questions.
Thank you, and thank you to your whole staff for their work on this. I know that this was a lift, and there was a lot of staff involvement, and we really appreciate your efforts to bring this forward. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Okay, any public comment on this item? So I think this is a really compelling case, and I would be very comfortable entertaining a motion for the staff recommendation to approve the expedited apportionment.
Move approval of the option 1, approve expedited apportionment outside the priority funding process for the project as shown in attachment 4.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Okay, Senator Allen.
Aye.
Assemblymember Nazarian.
Aye.
Assemblymember Chavez.
Aye.
Juan Morales.
Aye.
Cesar Diaz.
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire.
Aye.
Jocelyn Wong Hernandez.
Aye. And again, we'll keep that roll open
Yes.
for others to add on. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is the San Marcos Unified Appeal.
Yes. Tab 6, can I draw your attention to page 115? So the issue at matter is the district is requesting to retain unspent site acquisition grants. Back in December 2010, the district received over $14.5 million in new construction funds to build an elementary school. And with that, they also received $526,850 for site acquisition. The district self-reported their expenditures back to our office, and it didn't have an audit component to it, meaning we accepted the expenditures as reported, and the district noted that they spent only $499,999 in site acquisition grants. So we had sought that the district to return the grants. We notified them that we accepted the expenditures as reported. However, there was one condition that we highlighted, that the site grants specifically was unspent. So that meant 50% of the remaining grant of $13,426 must be returned back to the state. So site acquisition grants is a statutory adjustment, and those adjustments occur up and down, meaning there's increases that we provide districts even if it is self-reported information, and there's also decreases. And those decreases are also, districts are notified of those decreases and funds are returned back to the state. So the district is relying on a two-year audit window as the basis of their appeal. The district would like to retain the site acquisition funds and categorize that as savings. Unfortunately, statute and regulations doesn't permit the district to retain unspent acquisition funds. So again, the statute requires that the funds be returned back, and the regulations state that the adjustment must be made whether or not it's an increase or decrease related to site acquisition grant funds. So on page 117, we wanted to highlight for the board, specifically giving the board a history of how many times we've actually made site adjustments, increases and decreases over the years. And you can see just by the blue indication of the bar charts that we've granted a number of increases over the years, and that equated to over $51.7 million of increases that have been provided to districts, and decreases are about $20.3 million. So the increases outweigh the decreases, and that's something we wanted to share with the board. And on page 118, we also wanted to highlight specifically the adjustments that have occurred from January 1st, 2015 through February 6, 2018. There have been 95 site adjustments as it relates to the program. Those site increases, again, have shown that the increases outweigh the negative decreases. So $1.5 million have been awarded to districts for those site increases over the last 3-year period. And again, those increases outweigh the decreases, and we believe that even though on page 119 the district has achieved savings, we don't disagree with that, and the savings issue isn't what is in dispute. What's in dispute is really the unspent site acquisition funds. So we are requesting that staff doesn't have the administrative ability to grant that request, and we're asking that the board not approve the district's request and seek the $13,426 be returned back to the state.
Thank you, Ms. Silverman. Are there questions or comments from board members on this item? I had to have it explained to me a couple of times. I don't want to assume that everybody fully understood. Go ahead.
Do we know why the district didn't report the $26,000 in their expenditure report?
We contacted the district, and they have not provided us any reason why they have not spent the funds, nor have they given us an explanation or provided us additional documentation.
Do we have anybody from the district here? No.
Oh, sorry, was there anybody from the district? Did you hear Mr. Morales? He was asking if anyone's here from the district.
No, not that we know
No.
of.
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay. So seeing none, from my perspective, it seems like the policy question is really, they got a site acquisition grant to cover those costs. They spent less than that. It seems very clear to me that this is sort of the process. I'm not sure how other board members feel like there needs to be, if I'm missing some sort of part of the discussion. I feel very comfortable entertaining a motion on the staff's recommendation.
Well, is there even a need for action?
Absent of having 6 votes to overturn staff's position, so
Okay.
basically if
Thank you,
there's
Mr.
no,
Disagreeing.
yeah, there's no motion
So
on the floor
possibly
to.
not. Okay.
And Ms. Chair, the only thing I would ask is, what was the time span in which you attempted to contact them?
Well, the item was agendized originally in February. So the district, during our process of notifying of our position during the appeals and notifying the district their appeal is being heard in February, there is communication with them. They've obviously had our recommendation to the board. They saw the staff report. So that communication was occurring between January and February. And then, so they requested a postponement before the February board. And so we actually, since that time, have been contacting them as well, repurposing the report and sharing with them that it's going to be going to the April board. And so those contacts have been has been in contact back with us. So we submitted the appeals again, I mean, our position again, and again, we haven't heard back from the district.
Prior to any of that process starting, you had a communication in which you essentially told them this is, you owe the 13,000 back.
Right.
And that's what sort of started this process. When did that start?
That occurred over the summer of 2017.
Summer of
So, yeah, we
2017.
communicated to the district that they owed 13,000 back and gave them the ability to submit expenditures to reconcile any difference. And at that point in time, they wanted to appeal. So we provided them the opportunity to provide additional expenditures.
Any additional questions? Okay, so I guess I did not need a motion, but I appreciate you, Senator Allen, for being there. And unless anyone wants to move, otherwise we'll just continue along. Thank you for the report. We appreciate it.
I do have one other, just clarification, just to make sure, just to confirm. There have been a lot of other projects that have been adjusted after the 2-year period, and a lot of those, I'd say the majority on page 118, have resulted in a net increase to their grants. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So in this particular case, it would have been a decrease, but overall, the other adjustments have resulted in increases to their grants.
Absolutely. This is the only item that has been appealed.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have the
So workload.
Right. Tab 7. Any questions on the workload?
Okay. Any public comment on the workload report in tab 7? Okay. Seeing none, the only other thing that I wanted to make sure that the board was aware of is Ms. Silverman sent all of the state allocation board members notification yesterday to advise that the Office of Administrative Law has made a determination related to the February 23rd petition that was filed alleging that this board was operating under an underground regulation as it related to the matter of not applying the 2017 grant amounts to the projects that the SAB approved on June 5th, 2017. You all were here, I was not, but we have talked about this at length. In addition, the petition contended that the SAB failed to follow procedures in accordance with our own sort of board rules and procedures related to hearing 2 appeals on that particular topic. The Office of Administrative Law has notified the petitioner that it declined to accept the petition. So prior to the filing of that petition, OPSC received 2 appeals on the topic. And after conferring with legal counsel, it was determined that there was no legal basis for us to consider an appeal of our own action. And so the appeals were sent back to the requesting school districts. Since then, we've received 14 more appeals prior to the petition being denied. Now that the Office of Administrative Law has communicated that to us, I plan to notify those districts that their appeals will not be heard. So I don't know if anyone has any comments on that, or hopefully you've had a chance to spend some time with it. And if you have any questions about the email Ms. Silverman sent, please contact her directly. Okay, any public comment about any other issues under the purview of this board? Okay, seeing none, go ahead.
Just to clarify, for the action that we didn't take an action for, do we need to take an action to bring closure?
No.
No, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I don't have any further business, but we're going to hold the roll open for additional members to add on, and so this meeting is not adjourned. But I think you can roll through this. Everybody who's voted is free to go, except me. Yes, yeah, they'll all be open.
Okay, Senators Allen and
Thank you.
Senator Nguyen, how do you vote on the minutes? Thank you. And then how do you vote on the consent calendar? Thank you. And then how do you vote on Burnt Ranch? Actually, Senator Nguyen. Thank you. And all the motions carry.
Yeah, he always comes.
Hi, Senator Pan. Yes. Senator Pan, how do you vote on the minutes?
I vote aye.
Thank you. How do you vote on the consent calendar?
Aye.
And then how do you also vote on Burnt Ranch?
Aye.
Great. Motions carry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're adjourned.